What is the difference between being punk and being a punk?
We are here to talk some punk rock, some music, comics,
Punk culture, DIY shit, anything we want to talk about.
That's what fascinates me. Give me everything. Absolutely everything.
I find that music and comics have always been intertwined.
Muckspout.
Chicks dig it. Don't worry.
Hello, hello, hello. Here we are again. Muckspout episode 793. Today I'm joined by Chuck Pineau. The guy who replaced me last time is now replacing Eric. He is, as it says, the handsome Eric.
Well, I mean, you know, if we're talking music, like if I was a band, I guess I'd be the Replacements, right?
Yes. Yeah. Although, yeah, I guess you're almost as good as the Replacements, the actual Replacements. It's good to be back, man. You took my podcast Virginity many years ago, and here we are again, and now we're co-hosts. It's like I feel like Anakin hanging out with Obi-Wan, you know, right before he turns to Darth Vader.
It's great because you and I have been friends, for those of you who don't know, for over 20 years. So I'm sure in a lot of ways, both of us,
painful years.
Yeah, right. We've both taken each other's virginities in a lot of different senses over the years. So yeah, this is just one more to throw in the books.
Yes, that's very true.
I will say, just so everyone's aware, I'm sorry. For some reason, it did not go live on Facebook. Apparently, it was deleted or something. So we're only live on Twitch and YouTube.
Great. Fuck Facebook.
Who's the cutie substitute? What's up, Eric?
Hey, what up, Eric? Oh yeah, I don't have time to host, but got plenty of time to talk shit in the comments.
I actually talked shit about you when we did the interview. I can't remember the dude's name, but when Eric and I were on here, I was like,
yeah.
The least I said, I get that Ben's internet's not working right now, and that's why I'm here. I understand, but the least he could do is fucking pop into the comments and say hi.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, man.
Dude, it's just me being a dick.
Yeah, I'm bad at talking shit. Well, at least digitally. I'm good at doing it to people's faces.
That's true. It's funner to people's faces because you get the reaction.
Hell yeah. So it's been a minute. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing all right. You know, I love this show and the idea of punk because we get to be a little honest. So been having a mental health issue and been working on that. And at the very beginning of the year, my family and I decided that 2023 would be all about healing. So that's what this has been about. And so healing is work. It's a lot of work. It's stitching together scars. It's doing the work. And so that's what it's been. And it means that a lot of other things don't get done. And it means that a lot of things that are uncomfortable come up. But it's been really good, you know, as tough as it is. And as often as like you feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, we're still stepping. We're still doing what we got to do. So, you know, it's been good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I do agree with, you know, I always consider to be like punk to be like the most honest kind of expression of music in terms of like, it doesn't censor itself from any certain emotions. It allows the anger, it allows the sadness, it allows the joy, all of it gets thrown in the mix. And, you know, healing carries all those emotions too. And
yeah,
you know,
it's cathartic.
It is. Yeah. And, well, as much as it sucks going through the process, I'm glad that you're going through it because I've never seen anybody work on themselves and come out, you know, anything but better. So
yeah, no, and I'm super excited, man. And you know, like punk and metal, because of course I'm more of a metalhead than I am a punk guy, though I do enjoy punk and I appreciate it. They're both that way, and I actually had a little fun theory in my head, like why is the heavier rock, especially hard rock and whatnot, I feel like it's been suppressed. We're not really seeing it in the Grammys or on radio that much. We have a local radio station, and they won't play anything after like 2010. So a lot of that for me is like, I'm like, so what is it about? Like, is this some kind of like, this is me having fun conspiratorially or whatever, but like, is it some kind of like subversion of anger? You know, the fact that we don't want to play really angry, because even like you don't hear a lot of like rap that's on mainstream. You're not hearing necessarily a lot of really angry rap unless it's like, say, aimed at people rather, or like at specific individuals rather than systemic, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I was just talking to a coworker about that. We were listening to the radio, and like I have a Spotify subscription, and I use Spotify a lot. So like my playlists are pretty well curated. So I don't really listen to radio very much unless I'm working, and usually I have a little portable speaker, and then my coworkers and I will kind of swap off the different music that we want to listen to. We don't really have to like tap into the mainstreams too often, but the other day we were listening to the radio, and it was a bunch of hip hop stuff, and I didn't hear a single song that talked about anything other than girls and money and guns. And it kind of like, it made me realize, back in the day when hip hop was first on the scene, similar to punk rock, and punk has kind of been subverted in a certain way as well. I was saying to my coworker, like, I can't believe we went from fuck the police to this. It's so weird, like that it's the same genre, it's the same style,
Well, I feel you, but I would say that stuff is still there. They're just not showing it to us. Like, we're just not seeing it as much. You know what I mean? To say that there's not, of course there's that anger is there. I just don't think they're showing it to us near as much as they used to.
I agree with you. I think hip hop in the mainstream is going through their 80s hair metal phase, personally.
Huh.
I mean, they're going through that glamour and glitz, and everybody's got to be pretty, and everybody's got to have all the nice cars and all the nice shit, and kind of be baller the whole time. I think that's just the phase they're going through, and then they'll probably go through a grunge phase where everything gets real lo-fi and everybody gets back to their roots.
That's interesting. I'd really like to see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, me too. It'd be nice to see things kind of reflect the reality that we're all living in, because it feels a little kind of tacked on right now,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of tacking things on, we have a guest today. He's got a Kickstarter going right now for his comic. This is the second issue of Ink, which is about a tattoo artist who develops mystical powers. And everybody, welcome, please, Greg Moquin. Is it pronounced Moquin or Moquin?
Oh no, you said it right the first time. Yeah, there's only
Moquin?
like a handful of people.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, you and I chatted briefly about your Kickstarter going, and we know each other in social media circles a fair amount. You're pretty prolific.
Sure.
You're doing well. But the reason that I wanted to bring you on here is because, as it says in the intro, punk and comics are kind of connected at the hip, and I think the third hip, so to speak, would be alt fashion, and tattoos get into that mix as well. But it's interesting, as Chuck and I were talking about, the shift into the mainstream. I remember when I was a kid, having a tattoo was like limited your job prospects, and now it's just, my coworkers have tattoos on their hands and stuff. No problem. No one says a word. So it has kind of entered the mainstream, but I was wondering, in what form of, the artistic expression of tattoos, like what inspired you about that to pursue a comic book, especially something in the mystical realm?
My own tattoo artist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that would be pretty cool if like tattoos gave you powers, and there are characters like that. So somebody did bring that up before, like when I was launching the pre-launch of the Kickstarter. Like, there's like already a character like that, right? I was like, yeah, he's different though. So calm down.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Good luck. I was like, yeah, that's right. I was like,
so
yeah,
what do you
it's a
got
little
inked on
different.
you?
What?
What do you have inked on you?
This whole arm.
Oh, badass, dude.
Yeah. And then I have Deadpool.
Oh, cool.
But I do want like just Marvel and DC stuff on this arm. So like my favorite characters are gonna just be on that arm. The next one I'm getting is Deathstroke, and he's gonna be fighting Deadpool. So
Wicked.
Yeah.
Oh, that's appropriate.
And I was actually just there like last week to like schedule that tattoo because it's been a couple years since I got a tattoo, and because I just got a house, so mortgage, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want my own characters on my body somewhere, but tattooing yourself on my body would be kind of creepy. And he's like, yeah, that'd be kind of weird. And I'm like, yeah, I probably just want to do your character, even though like he's one of my favorite characters of our characters. So,
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I thought it would be really cool that tattoos could give people powers, and then I just like brought the supernatural into that.
Well, there's like a lot of connection to old, ancient ritual and that kind of stuff when it comes to inking the body and representing different things on your body, that kind of thing. I personally
the Maori, the Samoans, like a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep. I personally have no tattoos, but it's mostly because my ideas are too ambitious. And I'm afraid I'm going to get halfway in and regret it. So it's my anxiety that keeps me at bay, but it has nothing to do with like disliking tattoos. What particular tattoo was your first?
Actually, it's this microphone. You can't really see because it's blurry.
Yeah, it's kind of blurry.
Yeah. It's like the Elvis microphone from like the 50s.
Oh, cool.
And it's words lie, music speaks, and it's actually like a Walt Disney quote, which I did not know until like I looked that up after. I was like, oh, that's cool. I just thought it was a cool saying, but he once said that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I technically have a Disney tattoo. Yes. But yeah, that was the first one because like years ago, for many years, me and my friend Ryan like really wanted to like have a band, and then it just never happened.
Do you play anything?
I did play bass. So I was just the dude that stood there.
Hey man, I'm the drummer, so like as far as I'm concerned, you're the second most important person in the band.
Yeah. And we wanted to do like screamo kind of band, and that we kept like finding people, but then nobody wanted to practice, and yeah, that's how that went.
Very cool. So what particular bands were like influencing what you wanted to do? Like, what were the things that you were like, I want to be in a band because of that band there or those guys over there?
So in the 90s, like the first band I probably heard because of the radio was Blink-182 when I was a kid. Yeah. But it was mostly in middle school is like when I got like more into music. And so it was like Census Fail, Story of the Year, like Kiss, Green Day. And there's a bunch of bands.
Is there a specific era of Green Day?
Like I like Dookie and American Idiot was the last album that I actually kind of cared about, and I just stopped listening to them because there was other bands that I started listening to.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's the thing is like, Chuck and I back in the day, I was like obsessed with System of a Down. They were one of my favorite bands of all time at the time. What up, John? And then I moved away and we each kind of did our own thing for a few years, and then when I came back to visit again, their last album was coming out, Hypnotize. And when it came out, I remember because I was the System of a Down guy. I was the guy that told everybody about them when they first kind of hit. And they were like, so Hypnotize, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, I don't know, man. It's not for me. And it was like, at first I was a little disappointed, but then I kind of realized like bands grow, and like where I am now compared to when I first heard them, that changes. So are there any bands that like have stuck it out for you that like you still connect with to this day, that from back in the early days?
Story of the year, I guess. I don't listen to them that much as I used to. I used to be like worship their feet almost in middle school. And since Fail, like I follow the singer on Instagram, but I don't like listen to their newest music. The used was like it's still
they're great.
Listen to that was probably one of my favorite concerts I ever went to in Connecticut was the used Sleep Wave, which is the screamer of unclean vocalist of Under Oath and some other band. I forgot the other band that was there, but Bert like literally like locked eyes with me and my friend Ryan when we were there, and we were just like waving like I'm starstruck.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that was cool.
Cool.
A Day to Remember has changed a little, but I still like them. So.
Very cool. So Screamo was kind of your main the vein of punk that you were kind of into back in the day. Is that the deal?
Yeah.
So John has a really interesting, he says, great question. My favorite band is Primus, and yet they have put out several subpar albums in late years. It's really hard to keep that quality and connection to music over a long career. I would actually disagree with you, John. Not that you're calling them subpar. I saw them live in 2019. They, by the way, fucking fantastic. I love Primus, love seeing them live. But the problem is that these bands have an evolution. And so you're saying, oh, it's subpar. And really what it is you're not enjoying their evolution, where they're going. And that doesn't make them any less, because those guys are talented as fuck. You can't take that from them. No one can. So I don't think it's a fair statement to say subpar, just that it doesn't connect with you the way that it once did.
Well, I think a lot of what happens with bands that like you remember from your youth, or like you felt it here the first time you heard them, you keep expecting that same feeling to happen as their new music comes out. You associate that feeling with them, but that was actually you. And the music was like a catalyst, it's like, thinking the spark plug is what makes the engine run. It's like, there's a lot of other moving parts in there that are making everything happen. And really all that's doing is just starting the fire. So you can't really hold the band responsible as they change and you change. And then eventually you kind of meet each other in the middle. Like I remember 9 Inch Nails, I was obsessed with for years and years and years. I was like a collector. Like I don't really collect stuff, but like I was on the hunt to have every 9 Inch Nails album and single. He has the halo with the number next to it on all of his albums. I wanted to have all the halos. And I hunted and hunted and hunted. And eventually I realized it's like, I wasn't even enjoying the music anymore. Like I wasn't into what he was doing. I was just doing it out of this sort of like compulsion. And I kind of realized like, I've changed, trends changed. Why would I expect this to connect the same way? It's unreasonable expectation.
I think it's funny. Music is like friends or even lovers in a way. We connect to them really close, but like one of the thing is, okay, you know what? Ben and I, and we were both in kitchens a lot. We worked in restaurants, and restaurants are fucking revolving doors of employees. And I found myself falling in love with all these new people. Of course, there was a lot of people I didn't like, but I was finding myself like, I like these people, and then they would disappear out of my life, and I would feel empty afterwards. And then eventually I evolved to the point where the second I knew someone was leaving, like I hardened and I was like, okay, cool. This friendship is over and that's fine. And I would immediately move on and it wouldn't bother me at all. And I've come to be that way with music too, where it's like, oh, I love this band. And then an album will come out and I'll be like, but this one sucks in my opinion. Like it's not for me. And so I'd be cool with that because I wouldn't have to say, oh, Avenged Sevenfold sucks now. I'd just be like, Hail to the King was not for me. Bye-bye. And I just haven't gone back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel about a lot of the bands that I got really into in the early 2000s. You know, and the thing is, I've noticed that amongst a lot of my friends that are my age or a little older, when we listen to music together, they play the same 10 bands or 20 bands, and they just kind of have them on repeat. And I am the kind of person where I'm always looking for the new shit. I always want to find the new band, the new sound, the album that people don't listen to. I love that stuff. And that's a certain, like, I gotta, like, something's broken up here, and I don't have the nostalgia button that gets pressed for anything. And I've learned that, like, it's really hard for me to enjoy a band longer than an album or two because of that. So I think I always had this thing that you're talking about, Chuck, where I just, you know, it was like, okay, I'm done. Bye. I would come back for another album or two, but, you know.
I think it's also, and this might fuck with you a little bit, it's also comfort versus discomfort. I think that I am comfortable in a place in music where I can sit back and go, this era of metal and whatnot, this is what I love, this is what makes me feel comfortable. Whereas for you, I feel like, knowing you well, you are uncomfortable being in one spot all the time. And so for you, really hard time being with just one band for too long, just because it would mean that you were sitting still. And you don't like that idea. That's not Ben. That's not how Ben rolls. So you have to move on, not even necessarily because the band's moved on, but because you were like, I can't just tread my wheels here.
I think it's more that it's just like there's so much other cool shit going on over there and no one else is looking at it. Like, I feel a responsibility to, like, I feel a responsibility to go over and be like, oh, guys, come here. Check it out.
I love that you feel responsible.
I do. Yeah, maybe it's me though. Maybe it's me.
John said subpar by my standards. Is it what I meant? Metallica is another good example. Not good versus bad. Just can't repeat the prime years and moved on to other era of the band. I get that. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I have my opinions of Metallica. I think they've done great work. 3 out of 4 members have done great work. I just don't really feel like the drums stand up relative to the rest of the band. But I'm a drummer, and I'm allowed to be picky about that shit. But Greg, you've been sitting here quietly listening to us talk the entire time, so let's get back to you.
Tattoos.
So, yeah. So, the first thought I had when I started reading the first issue of Ink was, you know, comic art and tattoo art aren't that far apart, you know, and even like going off of, you know, you have a Deadpool sketched on you.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that it's on your skin instead of paper doesn't really, you know, it's just a different medium. Was it a challenge to find an artist that could render tattoos properly, or was it kind of like just like baked in that it was easy, art is art kind of deal?
I found my tattoo artist because my friend Ryan, so he was getting tattoos already done, and then like it took until I was like 20. Yeah, I think it was like 20. Yeah, because it took like 10 years to get this arm done.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, like he's like, just go to Shane. And I was like, okay. So then I did, and I was like, oh, he doesn't suck at what he does. That's cool.
Right.
And then he puts his little spin on stuff because I'm like, I don't even if we find a reference on Google, don't copy that. He's like, oh, I won't. I was like, okay, cool. Just put your own spin. So he usually does that.
When
So,
you
go ahead, man.
Oh, sorry. When you picked your artist for ink, was it important to you that they had a respect for the art of tattooing, or were you more worried about them just being good on paper?
I was only worried about the comic art at the time. That was our first one that we technically released.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it took 4 years to put the second one out. But yeah, the next one won't take that long. And it's pretty cool because like the artist Adam, he like evolved within those like couple years. So the art's
Yeah, you can
better
see
in the
that
second
between
one.
issue 1 and 2. It
Yeah.
changed.
Oh my god,
it improved.
Yeah, I thought issue 1 was good because I can't draw for shit. Like I can draw a cube. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel the same way. Like when I read issue 1, I was like, man, this art is fucking sick. And then issue 2, I was like, did he get a different artist or I was like, no, same dude. Damn.
No, he just evolved.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, how many issues do you intend this to be?
For the first plot arc, it was going to be 4, but it's going to be 3 because of how other things in my comic universe play out. So.
Oh, so this is part of a larger sort of macro universe.
Yeah, I could talk about that forever, but I'm not going to.
We got about 30 minutes, so like talk away, man.
Nah, you're gonna get bored.
No. Like I think this is a cool idea. Like I've always felt like, if you want to have your thing self-contained, that's cool. But I've always felt like the more connections get created in your story, that's lore, right? That's how you kind of like create an emotional bond with the readers.
Yeah.
Like how did this macro universe get started? Like what were the first early characters?
2014, I started writing a story, and that was like that is what our flagship title, Seer Chronicles, is now. And I actually titled it Red Mask. Don't know why I titled it that. I was just like, red fire, okay. And I wrote over 1,200 pages of that, and then ink and everything else was like in that story. And then I was like, this all can't fit together like this, so I had to like split it apart, and then it was more story format. So, I had to like split it into like a comic script, but how I split it into a comic script looked more like a storyboard. Dylan, my co-founder of my business, said. So when we got our first artist, which was like a skateboard artist, like he could not do comic books. It was bad. So nobody will ever see the first like 7 pages of that ever, like hidden somewhere. Indiana Jones has locked away somewhere. So the first version people saw was by this Ricardo guy, and he kind of like just did whatever he wanted on certain things, and I was like, that's bad, and I paid for that, which was kind of annoying.
Yep.
So then we had to get that remastered again, and some people were like, why are you remastering that? I was like, the first one was okay, but like it's not what I wanted. So
yeah, right.
Yeah. And the first characters were John Benson, which is in Seer Chronicles, Ryan Potts, Sadie Potts, and the evil Matthew guy that turns into like our Joker character. And then ink sprouted from that.
Interesting. So there must be some sort of like overarching kind of mythology that connects everything together. Like,
yeah,
this ancient society that gets revealed in the first issue of Ink and so on. So it's all kind of there's a grand kind of orchestra playing this thing in the background. How long did it take to kind of put all this together and like start figuring out which issues go with what? Like this is kind of a Kevin Feige kind of situation, you know what I mean?
It took like 3 years to write the whole thing. So from 2014 to like 2017, and then like me and Dylan found each other in 2016, and then I was living in Florida for like only a couple months, and then I came back home, and then we finally met in 2017, and then we started talking, and then I actually finished it in 2017 at some point. And then I told him everything. I told him as much as I could tell him in like 4 or 5 hours. Mm-hmm. He's like, that sounds amazing. Now we have to make a comic book company. I was like, yeah. So it's a lot of like puzzle pieces that go together. But the faceless in the second issue of Ink is like super important to like a bunch of stuff. So
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, if there's another organization, I shared a photo and I found it on my Instagram, my personal one, like forever ago. I posted it, and it's just a picture that Dylan made in Photoshop, and it's just like it kind of looks like blood, but it's supposed to be like flower petals. And that's cool. Another organization that's in our series Scales, and they're not the same as the Faceless, but they work in different ways. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So do you find the collaborative process challenging or positive? Because like, I mean, this is kind of very clearly, this is your baby, right? Like, I mean, you kind of have all the parts kind of figured out. So do you find it challenging to work with other people, or are you like, oh yeah, let's yes and the shit out of this?
I'm pretty good, I think, at like project management. So I can work with any artist as long as they, do as I ask. Can draw. How many tuna sandwiches? Actually, I don't think he eats one tuna sandwich in the second one. So I don't know. He's too busy.
The fans are gonna revolt.
Big reveal! You heard it today.
Well, there is a character that
drops the knowledge.
There is a character that does eat something. It's not a tuna sandwich, though.
That sounds so fucking sadistic the way you said it. He eats something.
And it ain't a tuna sandwich, you know what I'm saying?
If this was Belial, people would be like, wait, what are they eating this time? Like, fuck. You going back to that outhouse? What?
So now clearly this as you've been saying, this Ink concept has been baked into your universe for some time. So how do you determine for yourself or like with your team like how to tell the story? Because there's so many different kind of angles you can enter from.
So I write it, and then the artist does as I tell him to. So
wouldn't that be nice, right?
So I write it, and then Dylan edits some of our scripts. Now I kind of like gave some of that power to like other people. Like my friend Hector started editing, so he's actually available to do editing for other people. Not to take that away from Chuck, but
Brandon butter.
Yeah, he's very good at editing because he's different than Dylan in a couple things. So when I'm like collaborating with Dylan, it's kind of like different. But Hector, he doesn't take apart my script and like he's like, this is what we can do. And because Dylan's good at coming up with like making the idea better. Hector is like, I'm gonna keep your idea, and then we're gonna just expand on it instead of tearing it apart to pieces and be like, now we're gonna put it back together in a different way, so it makes a little more sense. Yeah, because most of the time when I'm writing, I'm at work because I'm a security guard. I don't do anything, and I hate that job so much. So fire me. So there's so I'm just.
Let's go, punk.
Yeah. And sometimes it gets up to the point of like I'm about to leave, so I like am rush typing at the end, and then when I go back and read it, I was like, oh, what did I mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know that.
Yeah, so that's when Dylan or Hector is like, what did you mean? I was like, no idea. He's like, do you have it written down somewhere? I'm like, no. We're gonna just guess.
Hold on, let me see that. Backspace, and we're good. I think it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I've done that a few times. So do you find, like, as Chuck mentioned before, I've had my fair share of soul-sucking jobs. I found it kind of like counterintuitively, I found it inspiring to have kind of a dead-end job that I didn't enjoy, where I felt like you take that deep breath before you have to start your day, because you're just like, okay, here we go. Like, that I found inspiring for the creative side, where having this negative influence in my life was like pushing me to get the hell out of this hole. You know what I mean? Do you find the same, or is it, do you struggle at times, or is it like kind of when you're at work, that's the writing time?
So I get that I have to do my job when like there is something that happens, which is like rare, but now I'm jinxing myself. But usually I just clear alarms, but it's an overnight job, so like nobody's really there except me and the two other guards, and I'm stuck in this room. And while driving to work, I am annoyed that I have to go to work, but I'm like, oh, I get to write now. So and I get to listen to music. Like, that's what I do. I just put Spotify on and just write.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet gig. And then you get to put your stuff on Kickstarter and make a little extra cash. That's all right.
Yeah.
Or break even, at least, hopefully.
One of the lyrics that I felt helped me when I was in the dead end job and trying to work at comics was this one. It's from Skid Row. It's Slave to the Grind. And he says, because I won't be the one left behind. Can't be king of the world if you're slave to the grind.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, fuck yeah. And that one was very helpful for me.
Yeah, definitely. So you were part of the Screamo scene, and I assume still kind of are. The Screamo scene was, in my memory, the first one where the tattoos were like front and center. Like, that was the first time I ever remember seeing full sleeves on people, that it wasn't somebody who was like a tattoo artist, or B, I hate to put it this way, but a biker gang adjacent, you know? I'm just being honest, you know, like, for the most part, prior to that, tattoos were kept above the sleeve or on a part of the body that clothing kind of protected, but full sleeve tattoos on guys on the stage, that was a Screamo thing. So did that scene have anything to do with you know, the story of Ink? Like, is the musical background a part of it?
Not really. Just music does like certain vibes, I guess, of music that I listen to. That determines how I'm going to write a certain like bunch of pages. So I actually put on a certain band if it's just like a calm, like talking back and forth thing. So there's a band like Passion Pit. I like found them through my girlfriend. So like I'm just like, oh, that's a good band. So now I'm gonna just like listen to this one song, Sleepyhead, nonstop, and it's gonna just be talking and just like, yeah. If it's like a fighting scene that I definitely want to write, I put like Dance Gavin Dance on, because they're like probably now my favorite band. And any one of their songs, like usually Evaporate, their song Evaporate from 2 albums ago, is like just amazing. And I could blast that at work. Like, I don't care if somebody's like walking by the door, like, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. My song to get me in the mood for like an action scene, but I also use it for like drumming practice, is Tooth and Claw by Animals as Leaders. I don't know if you know Animals as Leaders, but they're like virtuosic, like progressive metal, I would say, like math metal. They're fucking wild. And
isn't some of the members Aren't some of the members from Dillinger Escape Plan in
Animals as
Animals
Leaders?
as Leaders?
I'm
Oh no,
not
I might be
sure.
thinking of Kill or Be Killed.
You are. Kill or Be
Okay,
Killed
okay.
is 2 members from DEP.
That's right.
But Animals as Leaders has the guitarist is super famous. I can never remember his name. Eamon Tobin. I don't know if you know Eamon Tobin, but like, man, the guy plays guitar like he was born with one in his hand. It's insane to listen to. But anyway, yeah. So what kind of music is inspiring you now? Like DGD, as you said, but and Passion Pit. But what else is kind of like on your playlist at the moment?
There's a band called The Home Team, and just the singer has like a really unique voice. So I was like, I just like his voice a lot. And it's he's in a.
How would you describe it?
I have no idea. It's very like pop punky, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's just different from all the other bands that I've listened to. And he's in the singer of that band is featured in one of my other favorite bands, Broadside. He's in like a brand new song that just came out. So I like that one part very much because 2 of my favorite singers, well, 2 of millions singers that I like are in this band at the same time. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Have you used much of the tattoo idea for any of your branding or merchandising? Like, are you guys planning on stretch goals with print-on tattoos, or have you thought about, say, like doing traditional tattoos as variant covers? Like, will we ever see anything like that, or is that not really something you're interested in doing?
We actually are going to get like way more into like the tattoo side of stuff in the second plot arc because I'm just trying to tell the story in the first one. But the second plot arc is going to like actually show flashbacks of how he got his tattoos because in the first issue he has like different tattoos than in the second one. So there's like weird ones, and we didn't really have it like played out like, oh, this is what we should actually do to his body. That sounds weird. So, in the second issue, we actually like came up with a bunch of tattoos and powers that like associate with them, and how he got them. So when he's training and mastering his skills, away from home for 3 years, we're gonna show like flashbacks, kind of like Arrow and on the island. Except it's not gonna be a CW drama, and he's gonna be. I'm gonna show like how he got each tattoo and like what he had to do to get that tattoo.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Can you give any teasers as to like a tattoo that we haven't seen and maybe a power connected to it in any way?
There is a tattoo. Oh, that's in the third issue. There's a tattoo on his back and their wings, and when his tattoos actually like do stuff, they glow purple, and the actual tattoo like becomes like an actual like object he can use. One of my favorite things is the chain that is on his like forearm. He can actually use that chain and like choke the shit out of somebody. So he does that in the second issue, and it's one of my favorite things that have ever been drawn in any of our comics yet. It's just amazing how it is. He has super strength to a sense on one arm, because that's where his arm is. I don't think it really goes for his whole body.
That would look hilarious. Just
yeah,
like,
so it's just like
you don't want to mess with me.
It's like that one episode of Rick and Morty where Morty ends up getting the huge one arm.
And the giant arm has to fight that dude.
Gladiator arm, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think like it really like goes for his whole body, but I don't know. Dylan could probably like figure that out. Be like, oh, why wouldn't it? I was like, I don't know, because I'm overthinking. He has another tattoo that hasn't been used yet, and I don't think he uses it in the third issue. I forgot. I write the things. It's a chameleon, and it's like his hair is kind of covering it, but that he actually can like blend into like surroundings. So I could have used it in the second one because he's like hiding in some trees and bushes and stuff, but I just didn't use it there because I'm like, just draw like a panel and just have him invisible. I'd be like, just you don't have to draw him. And then people
I kind of liked how you, especially in the second issue, how you show off certain abilities he has, but you kind of leave it open to interpretation, like where the powers are coming from. Like there was one in particular where he's like chasing a guy and you see this thing glow on his leg and then he just speeds up, but that's all you know. He's still wearing pants. You can't see the tattoo. So it kind of like, I like that you left it up to the reader's imagination before, it intrigues me because it's like, oh, he comes in kind of like he's like the action figure that comes with the punching action already. You know what I mean? Like, where did he get it from? So you want to kind of, I'm excited for issue 3 is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I like how we came up with all those. So, and the reason ink is around is because it goes back into the Faceless, and they're around because of this object that's actually like connects to the Seer Chronicles. So
interesting.
It all connects. Yeah.
How long do you think it'll take to get to the sort of climax of this overarching story that you've got right now?
So the solo series characters. So I got Ink that ends at issue 3 for the first plot arc. Scales, there's 2 more issues of that too. So there's 3 issues in total of that. The first issue is just like he's a kid, and like I had like a couple people read that. People liked it, but they're just like, he's just like, it's not a superhero comic. It's just, it's definitely an origin story of just how he becomes what he's going to become.
Right.
But the second issue like takes place like 30 years later or something like that, or 20. I forgot what it was. He's definitely older. And he goes back home and stuff. So there's only 3 issues of that for the first plot arc. And then there's another character that I still need to do, but money. So I can't like have that character made yet. But he's kind of important because he kind of connects the pieces. He's the other person. And then it goes into this graphic novel team up thing. And I know some, and then there's another character in that graphic novel team up only. And he's the one character in our universe that like he's based on a person that I worked with, and he was like just cool. And I was like, you're the one character I'm not gonna like fuck with. Like you're gonna do your story, your little like one and done thing, and then you're gonna like go on a vacation somewhere, and that's how your story's gonna end. He's like, oh, that's cool.
They should do more of that in Marvel, don't you think? Everybody has to die 6 times and get resurrected.
Oh yeah, and we have people that die, they don't come back. Like I know a lot of other indie people, they do that. They're like,
but it'd be nice if I don't know, Jean Grey could just like take a day off. Like nothing you're doing's helping. Just go sit on a beach, relax for a little while. You
need to calm down. Just
that's right. Maybe the water would be good for the Phoenix. Maybe just take a break.
It'll boil. It's not helping. It's not helping. The ocean's a fucking hot tub.
Right, totally. Fish are just like bloop, 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 bloop. So, have comics always been a part of your life?
No, actually.
No.
I was more into just video games when I was a kid. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is actually like what started everything for me, technically. If you want to I said that in some other podcasts like a while ago. I thought it was video games, but it's like a mix of video games and just that. I played like a religious amount of times, like just Super Nintendo at my cousin's house, and it was like TMNT. It was that. We watched those movies, like the 90s movies all the time. The third one isn't as good as the other 2. But that's like really what started like it all for me. The only actual mainstream comic that I have is Spider-Man, and it's like just one run of like, Eddie Brock turns to Venom, and that's it. That's the only like thing that I got of that. All the other comics I have are all indie comics.
Interesting. So you got into it later in life? Is that the deal?
Definitely the comic end of that. I got into like when I became part of the community, and I'm like, oh, well, these people know how to write and stuff.
Yep. So what made you decide to make this a comic book? Because you said you had 1,200 pages of story written. So why did you decide to do this route instead of just going straight prose? It's definitely more cost effective. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah. Because my brother's friend at the time was like, this would be cool as a comic book. And I was like, cool. Now I got to figure all that out.
You're the most malleable motherfucker I've ever met. You're like, cool, I guess I'm making a comic.
You're blaming this dude for why you have a comic book series now? Like,
I would love to see him just walk up to this dude and be like, fuck you! Do you know how expensive that shit is? Make your own fucking comic, piece of shit! Tell me to make a comic. Fuck! Mother.
He was like a lit major or something. And he's like, when I was reading your story, you're like the William Shakespeare comics. I was like, no, I'm not. But
that's quite a compliment.
Obviously,
yeah.
I'm gonna remember that because ego. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's like, yeah. So like, you should just turn that into a comic. So that's how I found like my friend Dylan. I actually found him on Craigslist, and that's how like we created our company. I'm like, hey, you want to meet me in the back alley? And no.
This is a really interesting development for your business. I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
A dude called you the William Shakespeare of comics, and so you found a drug dealer who wanted to work with you.
He seemed like a.
Was he selling watches? Like, what was the deal?
He's actually the Craigslist killer.
Yeah, he just took a liking to Greg.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? This guy should be making comics.
He's like, I was murdering people, but comics is, it's really inspiring. So I decided to stick with it.
It soothes the savage beast.
And I do have a one-shot comic at some point coming up that's a serial killer. So there you go.
Oh, cool.
Starring
Not
Dylan.
Inspired by anybody you know, of course.
No.
His name is Nolid.
So, did you have any plans on publishing before you kind of pursued the comic route, or was this sort of like the ball got rolling and you were like, you know what, like let's just take this as far as we can go?
So I had to we first had to turn it into comic scripts. So first I wanted to find an artist because for some reason I thought that was the first step because Google was a thing, it still is, but I didn't think of asking Google.
Right.
How do you do that? I was like, what's the question I should ask? So instead I just went on Craigslist and looked for not an artist, a graphic designer, because I'm stupid.
Okay.
And I looked for that, and then I was like, well, I kind of do need a comic artist and not a graphic designer. He's like, well, I don't draw, but I can draw in Photoshop. I was like, you can make me a logo. And then it was just going to be me for the company. And for most of the time, it is just me. But he helps with marketing and stuff. And then when we started talking, he's like, oh, now I'm actually invested in this because you're the William Shakespeare comics. So he's like, oh yeah, so what do you want to do? What's the route you want to go? And he's like, do you want to put your stuff with Dark Horse or IDW or anything? I was like, no, I want to do it all on our own. I want to figure all that shit out on our own and just make it 10 times harder.
So
like, yeah.
what was the reason to go completely fly solo completely?
Back then I was how a bunch of those new creators are. Any new creators, I don't want to tell you anything about my story because of this. But I told him because I'm like, oh well, before I tell you this, you got to sign. No, I didn't have him do that. I was like, yeah, if I tell you this, don't steal it. So I was like that at the beginning, and then I was like, there's so much story that the way you steal it is there's no way you can steal it. And if you do, then I guess it was a good story because it was stolen. Yeah, so we talked for like 4 or 5 hours. I told them about a bunch of stuff about the story, and then we talked about like how to formulate into a business and all that stuff because he was more knowledgeable about that stuff.
So it was never kind of tempting to give the creative rights to someone else and just kind of let it happen on its own.
No.
No.
No, I wanted to do all that on my own. Yeah, finding an artist took a little bit. It took like 3 years, because for the beginning part, I at some point didn't have a job, and I was like, I'm gonna try to find an artist that would do this for free. That's not a thing.
No.
And then I found the first artist, which is the skateboard dude, and it wasn't good. So then we found Ricardo, and it was okay, but like then he was adding his own stuff in. Like one time he had like an Ed Sheeran poster on a wall, and I was like, I don't even like him. So why are you adding? And I'm like, and it's all indie. Like it's supposed to be all indie stuff. Like even indie music is involved in our universe. So don't do that. And he's like, okay, but isn't it funny? I was like, not really, because I'm paying for this, so don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but he still did stuff like he added like our logo on top of a bus stop, and I was like, that makes it like super meta and just weird. Like,
yeah. It feels like those are the kind of things you should be like, hey man, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? Instead of just drawing it in and going.
I didn't even notice the bus stop thing because that was the beginning of like us like just printing stuff, and I was like, I printed one version of that comic somewhere over here, and it has a Camaro logo on it on the car, and I was like, shit.
Camaro, we are not affiliated in any way with SeerNova Comics.
I like had a picture or whatever where I was like, so I printed a bunch of these, and like it's got the Camaro logo in there. So what do I do with them? And the people were like, just keep them, and they're like exclusive. I'm like, I don't think I could sell this.
Yeah, they're so exclusive, no one's allowed to have them.
So our first Comic-Con that we're doing on Saturday, I'm going to just like give them away if they want them. So,
good call.
Here, this is a cool exclusive thing that we did in the very beginning, and you can have the bad version of this comic.
Congratulations, you've won the shitty version. That's hilarious. So you're doing a fair amount of conventions?
The first one ever is Saturday, and then we want to do like 2 or 3 more this year. That's we've never done any yet.
Oh, very cool. So you're
we're going to start that. Yeah, we're going to start that in 2020, and then yeah.
Yeah, I remember 2020 vaguely.
Yeah.
So you're getting back on the horse this year. So what are the conventions that you have planned for?
Definitely the one that. So we were invited to the first one that we're ever doing. It's in Troy, New York, and it's Upstate New York Tabletop Con. It's a D&D convention.
Yeah.
But he's like, you're the only people I know that have a comic book company. I'm like, there's Facebook. We're on it right now. You can just look. I'm like, I know a person that literally has a comic made by D&D, like a D&D campaign. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, he lives in like Connecticut or South Carolina or something. So I don't know if he can drive here to do your convention, but yeah, that would definitely, he would make so much money at that one.
Yeah.
It's just D&D people. And his pitch, because I heard from his friend Jason, because he was on our podcast earlier today, and he's like, his pitch is literally like somebody walks by their table, and they're like, do you like D&D? And they're like, oh, and then they just walk over, and then he starts talking about like crit. That's it. That's all he talks about, and then he sells them. And I was like, oh wow.
Oh, he's got it. He's got it clinched. Speaking of D&D inspired comic books, have you ever read Rat Queens?
No, but I feel like
I would suggest for anybody who likes like fantasy stories but doesn't want to take them too seriously, give Rat Queens a look. It's basically about 4 females in like a fantasy kind of D&D campaign universe where they're like dungeon crawling and that kind of thing, but none of them take their thing very seriously. They're part of like kind of a guild, but they just think everybody else sucks, and and their commentary is constantly meta. It's a brilliant comic. It's hilarious. Cool. But anyway, you reminded me of that comic. I haven't read it in about a year, but damn, it's good. Anyway, so you're doing a D&D convention. So, is there a connection with your comic and so you're just gonna wing it? That's great.
Because he's just like, I know you from like high school, and you make comics.
Great.
And I was like, cool. We're the only ones selling actual comic books. There is a comic book store that's going to be there called Zombie Planet, but they're going to be selling D&D stuff. So we kind of got the comics thing like clinched.
Great.
And I'm like, if you want to buy comics, like you have to come to our table. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Any other conventions you got planned?
I kind of want to do Baltimore because a lot of people said that that's a good one, and we're actually trying to get people on our platform to do conventions if they can. So there's like a guy in Montreal, and he's like, there's a good one in Montreal, so I could do it there. And I was like, that would be cool. Yep. There's people all over the place on our platform that's like Ireland and stuff. So like if they can do that, then you just spread the name and everything.
Very cool. Very cool. So issue 2 is currently being crowdfunded. Where are we at in terms of the length of the campaign and how much you funded so far?
Right now we're at 17 days to go, 83 backers, and it's $2,255. So we are funded, but we're trying to hit stretch goals.
Right. Yeah. That's the days. 17 days to go. You're in the tunnel, man.
Yeah.
That's the darkest period of the campaign. From
and I do have a birthday bundle thing that we're coming out with because we were supposed to do it this weekend because Dylan's birthday is on Tuesday, and it was going to just be like a bunch of stuff like as a limited reward, but we're going to do it during the weekend of my birthday because my birthday is April 2nd, so I can actually do it then because Adam, the artist, is sending me like comics to like put within that bundle that we can like sell. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna do that, and he wants to do some special reward during our convention. So I don't know. And we have a retail tier, and that's the first time I actually put one on there like ahead of time. And there has yet to be a store to actually get it, but
all in good time, man. I had a retail tier on mine, and I didn't expect it at all. And then I think it was the last 6 or 7 days.
Yeah, I think they wait for it to fund and all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah. They want to see what kind of hunger people have, and then if they see positive enthusiasm, then they'll like, fuck it, let's throw a couple issues on the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
And thanks for letting me read both issues of Ink. It's fantastic. I'm definitely going to be going and backing the campaign as soon as I'm done with the podcast. You're killing it, man. Like that art.
Yeah.
I love it. Legit. I do.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to, any shout outs or any events you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
Just the one that we were doing. So I already mentioned it. So,
sweet.
No other event.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on here, and I hope it was all you dreamed it would be. Chuck, thanks for coming as well.
Dude, always love hanging out with you guys.
Yep, back at you, man.
All right,
that's it for us.
My name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care, everybody.
Hey, you made it through an entire episode. Good for you. If you're looking for more, give the rest of the channel a look, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We'll catch you fuckers next time. Later.
Muckspout.